Good afternoon, good morning, everybody. My name is Tamara Russell, and in the session today, we're going to be exploring our hands. Now, our hands are something that is with us all the time that we don't often pay attention to. Of course, we do if we've got pains or injuries, but most of the day, we go through our life without paying much attention to the hands. And what I'm going to be sharing tonight is that the hands are actually a really, really rich object that we can use to help train our attention, help increase our sense of being able to be in the body and present. And actually, if we pay attention to what our hands are doing during the day, we can really get some great insights into how our body and our mind meets the world and has impact on the world. And so associated with this increased dexterity and refinement of our hands as we learn to grasp and move and shape the world through our hands and through tool use, came the development of huge swathes of brain dedicated to sensory processing of information coming into the brain from our hands. And this is one of the brainwise principles that I often use in my teaching, and particularly for those who maybe have problems with attention, who perhaps are living really busy and chaotic environments, people with a lot on their mind. When we invite them to come into the body, I really want to give them an object that has a lot of sensation associated with it. And so there's these strips of the brain called the somatosensory cortex, which codes for all that rich sensation that comes into the brain from this part of the body. Now, we don't want to get too attached to tool use because there's also something else that we use our hands for. And this seems to be extra important right now. And that's the use of our hands for care. Yeah, for care, for touch. And this is something that we've missed, I think, during COVID, this very core human connection that we can make with one another through touch. Now we need to be appropriate and we need to negotiate how we make contact with each other in culturally appropriate ways, in ways that are kind and sensitive to one another. But using the hands for touch is such a powerful way that we can connect to one another through our attachment systems of our brain and really give a signal, I'm here, I'm with you. And working with a lot of healthcare professionals and talking to a lot of their patients that they work with, one of the things that people often say in hospital is that they're absolutely grateful for all the tools and the technical skills that the doctors bring that have saved their lives. But often what they remember from that experience of being unwell and in distress is perhaps a nurse or an auxiliary healthcare worker who came and maybe just held their hand or just placed a hand on their shoulder. It's such a powerful healing tool, our hands. And as Claire pointed to, I'm also a martial artist. So I've studied, Shaolin Kung Fu, which is like a little bit brutal, hard style martial arts with lots of punching and smashing things. But as I've grown into my martial arts practice, I've become more interested in things like Tai Chi and Qigong. And within these practices, we work a lot with self-massage and using the hands as part of our toolkit for staying well, and particularly staying well as we age, because this can be such a sensitive instrument if we can feel comfortable to touch the body, to massage the body. Every time we make contact with the body, our brain can draw in information, and this can perhaps help us to begin to notice if something isn't feeling quite right, or if there's something unusual happening in our body. And you've seen me a few times just make this gesture here. This is something that I really recommend in mindful self-compassion. This is a gesture that we often teach to people when they're feeling distressed, is just finding a way to soothe or to hold themselves, to hug themselves, or to make contact with themselves in some way. Because this hand tells us, I'm here, I'm with you, I'm listening, I'm making contact. So the hands are such a rich object that I love to work with this. And I'm imagining that many of you here are people that have completed courses like MBSR, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. And certainly, you know, mindfulness starts with the body. Ancient and modern traditions agree. And the body scan is really one great way that we can start to train our attentional capacity to stay with the raw sensations of the body. But I have to confess that when I first started doing the body scan with my slightly ADHD mind that's very curious and flies around the world at high speed, I really struggled to bring my attention to my little toe. I found it was quite a difficult object for me to sustain attention to. And of course, with practice, that does become possible. But as an entry point, I really struggled with that. And I think that's a lot of the impetus of my work. Is I always try to think, but what about the people that can't do that? You know, but what about the people that's not how they can access it? Like, it's a great practice, it's a foundational practice, but what about the people that can't do that? And so in my clinical work, which is often with individuals with bipolar, individuals with various problems with consciousness, dissociation, depersonalization, I've done quite a bit of work with psychosis. We start with the hands. We start with the hands. And in order to just make it a little bit more engaging, we start with mindfulness of the hands, a creative practice. So now is the time, if you have your piece of paper, to just maybe, I do suggest if you're right-handed, to draw around your left hand. But if you're left-handed, draw around your right hand. That just tends to make things a bit easier. And I'm going to just place my hand on the piece of paper and draw around it. And even as I'm drawing around it, let's do a 5-finger breathing exercise as we draw around the hand. So we can already start to tune in to the sensations of the pen, maybe the pen sort of making contact with the skin. And if you wish to, just tuning into a breath, breathing in, coming up the little finger, breathing out, just at your own rate, your own pace. You might even just try a bit of slowing down the movement. Already so many rich sensations there as the pen makes contact with the hand. And perhaps ending up with something that looks a little bit like this. Just give you another moment to finish that. So that 5-finger breathing exercise, particularly good for kids. Many of you maybe have seen when it's done like this, just touching with the finger. So we're sort of adding a layer there of bringing the drawing into play there. So we'll dive in to maybe 5 or 6 minutes of a guided practice. And one decision that you might make now is, where will I place this hand? Where will I place this hand? So one option, maybe you might wish to leave it on the piece of paper. That would be fine. Another option might be resting it on the thigh or somewhere where you can kind of comfortably rest the arm, so you're not sort of straining or taking too much effort. And if you really want to try something different, then, you know, I would suggest maybe placing it on the heart, a very powerful place to place the hand. So just have a think for yourself now, what's going to be nice for you. And the main thing is something comfortable that doesn't bring strain. And the other hand can just be resting wherever it wishes to be. And perhaps taking a few breaths to begin. Closing the eyes if that feels comfortable. And turning the camera inwards. Moving and shifting the attention to the hand. So for me, it's the left hand, but whichever hand you've got. I'm saying to my brain, I love you. Or you're busy thinking, planning, memories, millions of things. But what I'd like you to do right now is solely be interested in the sensations of this single hand. And in the first instance, bringing this alertness of the attention on the hand. Combined with a sense of receiving information from the hand. Alert, turning towards the hand. But then also slightly sitting back to receive sensation. What are those first, most prominent sensations that come to our awareness? Maybe the points of pressure and contact. Gradients of more or less. Perhaps something about textures or temperature. And it's normal that the mind may wander, thinking about, remembering, planning. Just give a wave if you see any of that mental activity there. Say, hi, mind. Oh, look at you. Look at you. Thanks for coming by. Not now. Now your only task is hand. Occasionally, I might invite the hand to soften. Stay tuned in to what you notice. If you can soften the hand. It might be helpful to just give a little note if you see the attention is pulled elsewhere, perhaps to sounds, things in the environment around you, competing for attention. And then that movement back to the hand. Just maybe 1 or 2 minutes more. Is there anything about the quality of density, volume, internal sensations? Where the hand meets the world, on your leg, your heart, the page. Exploring the edges of contact. Now we'll start that process of bridging from experience to expression. So maybe getting a sense of what's been prominent in this experience that you might wish to take to the page. And really giving yourself permission to express in whatever way is comfortable for you. It might be words or squiggles, shapes, colors. So we might use 3 breaths to mark the transition from this practice and then moving to the page. Capturing your experience. Let's take our mindfulness with us as we do that, because as we start to express and capture experience, some things might still keep arising. You might wish to capture something in a quite literal way, or something more abstract. So there's really nothing about right or wrong here, just what was my experience, what captured my attention. And there may have been some thoughts or some memories that came. Just really giving yourself permission to play. Permission to play. Bring that kind of childlike quality, curiosity and playfulness, willingness, openness. Just make a mess if that's what you feel like. So I can see a few heads looking up and a few heads still down. So just give a minute or so more. And if you're finished, just allow yourself this moment of pause and so you may not quite be finished yet. I don't want to rush people, but just a little bit of mindful of the time as well. And I don't know if we can put a big gallery on so that we can kind of see all the faces. And really, please just be comfortable for yourself about whether you want to share or not. You can sort of keep it back from the screen, or you can put it up. But if we were able to get the whole gallery view, I think Per is in charge of that. That would be wonderful. And if you're on your screen, you can change it to gallery. And let's just take a moment you might need to sort of just hold it, and then you can take a look around and see all the different ways that people are experiencing and expressing. Yeah, we've got so many people here. I'm going to click over and just see. Oh, I think somebody there looks like they had a couple of people hands on heart. Some sort of really striking hearts there. And some smiley faces, some words, some colors. Really beautiful. Thank you. And I think a few just listening in there as well, seeing some faces and some names I recognize as well there. And for me, it's just always such a wonder to share, in a way, to share our mind space and our experiences. Of course, much of our mindfulness practice is our own internal experience. But what we discover when we come into dialogue in a mindfulness group or through the process of inquiry is we are sort of tuning in to some of the core common experiences of mind, the ways that the mind wanders, but also our uniqueness in how we experience the world. And so, you know, for me, when I've been doing these practices, not only have I noticed that my own confidence to play and to kind of like expand my experience has grown and developed, but I'm just constantly honored and surprised at how others experience the body. And so I just share a little bit of my experience. I had my hand on my heart, and there was some sense of sensations there. Maybe a little bit of that was nervousness, a little bit of sense of anxiety, you know, in a big group, and lots of thoughts. Are they doing it? Is it going okay? I don't know if they're doing it. And some thoughts that came to my mind, like, oh wow, hands, wow, you know, hands, wow. And there was a little bit of noise going on out in the background that kind of pulled my mind away. And so then I had some thoughts like, oh gosh, please be quiet. You know, it's just, please be quiet. I hope they can't hear this. Yeah, mind is pulled away and it begins to wander. And then that gentle just coming back. What else? What else? And the sense of sort of fleshiness of the fingers, and a sense of sort of volume and density, kind of what felt like a big fat thumb, and then a little tiny, much less sensation in the little finger. But that was just my experience. And it would be great to hear some comments in the chat box if people wanted to just share a little bit about anything they noticed, or maybe let us know where you had your hand, because you know that might be quite a different experience having hand on heart than having it on the chair, for example. Or any comments about doing the creative process. I'll just give a moment and see if anybody wants to share. Yeah, Val there, I love that word, safe. How do we find that sort of self-soothing, safe place for ourselves through the hands? Yeah, Eckhart had the hand on the heart, pleasant, just good. Solar plexus and heart feeling, even the feet were talking. Araya saying that the hands felt ticklish. Julia saying, I had my hand on the heart, in the heart, felt it in the middle of the palm and was intense but pleasant. Yeah, it can be really strong, this hand on heart. Janine saying their hand on a body part such as the heart felt more interactive. Yeah. Gaina saying hand on thigh, heavy, warm, comforting. Maybe a burning sensation. Yeah, quite intense heat we can sometimes feel, particularly with the hand on the heart. Patricia, great. I felt connected to my hand and just let whatever happens with the crayon happen. Wonderful. Really maybe following that creative unfolding process of intuition. Actually, how does this want to come out through the other hand? Yeah. Marion, hello. Hot sensation from the hands on cool skin. Yeah, some of those temperature differentials. Thank you, Amy. Some great descriptive words there. Dense, black, heat, squiggly. Some fluttery feelings in the heart, some glowing sensations. And someone saying there's a little bit of a difference there, maybe some novelty, focusing on the hand rather than the breath. A feeling of absorption, totally in the zone. Catherine, yeah, great to give us some attention to my hands. I had this one participant that's been in the hands meditation class with me, and she just said, I can't believe I'm 45 years old and I've never paid attention to my hands before. You know, she was just blown away. She was the one actually we started calling it hands wow, because she was just like, hands wow. You know, I never paid attention to my hands before. The pen was tickly and I could feel it on my hands after I'd removed it. Yeah, lots of warmth. And yeah, Brenda getting into some lovely describing language there, buzzing, throbbing, tingling. I noticed that particularly, like sometimes when I first go to my hand, there's still a little bit of kind of the tension of the day, the doing, the typing, all the kind of doing of the hand. Sometimes it takes a little while. Like I gave that instruction, like, can we soften? Can we soften the hand? And then when we release some of that tension from the hand, whoosh, suddenly a whole nother layer of sensation can arrive. Ah, Wei-Zhu, yeah, got some sort of visuals coming there too. Light purple balloons flying out of my hands. Beautiful. Thank you, Claire. Thank you. Some fear to begin with. Thank you for sharing so honestly. Hand on my heart. Yeah, and how is it to connect to the body when we've had really difficult, painful experiences in the body? I've done this as well in a very paced and graded way with people with cardiac conditions, because there's a sense of the body letting you down, of the body kind of not working as you would want it to do, and a lot of fear around the heart region, of course, understandable. And yet this capacity to regulate the vagal nerve, to increase states of calmness and contentedness and relaxation, this can come quite quickly when we practice with the heart, but it may also be, you know, problematic or difficult to connect to the body. But yeah, you kept going, Claire, so well done. Gradually feeling confident to keep your hand there. And feel the strength of the hands. Yes. Felt my head was talking through the hands when drawing. Maybe with practice, my hand would lead the drawing. Great observation there, isn't it? How do we stay in that more kind of right brain expressive mode when we go to the page? And Jill's saying, I elaborated on the line round the fingers by drawing in the bandage, binding my forefinger and next bit. Oh, since a fall. Expressing the pain by writing, ouch. Yes, maybe there's jewelry there. Tuning into that, and very meaningful, perhaps. Engagement rings or jewelries from a family member, or some important story there. Oh, Jude, well done. You're doing some wonderful self-care for your hands, moisturizer and gloves, giving them some love. Yeah, now they're feeling warmed, relaxed, and rewarded for the hard work of the day. Fantastic. And saying, felt more grounded than usual. Yeah, and I mean, my neuroscience explanation of that is because we've got all this rich strips of somatosensory cortex that are just, you know, pumping information into our brain from our hands. And, a great experiment that maybe we don't have time for today is to play with left and right. I'm, very strongly right-handed. So the sensations from my right hand have a very different quality than from my left hand. And because I'm often doing things with my right hand, there's a sense that there's much more motor control with the right hand, and maybe also tension in the right hand from all of that doing, which I don't feel in the left side. Left is kind of got a softer quality, not so much control over the left hand, because I don't use it so much. I don't practice so much. And there's another version of this that you might want to play with as well, which is more of an inquiry. It's kind of like a reflective mindfulness exercise, which is about, where has my hands made contact with the world today? Where have I made contact with the world in this doing mode, the getting stuff done? Maybe it was typing, maybe it was cooking, maybe it was gardening, maybe it was picking up the shopping bags or going to the supermarket. Where have my hands done the doing? Another great inquiry, particularly for busy healthcare workers, those that care for others, is, where did I take a moment to make contact with the world in a way that was about care? And that might just have been, kind of holding my cup of tea, just taking a moment to feel the warmth of a cup of tea in my hands, and give myself a 2-minute break, looking out the window. Maybe it was contact with nature, with some plants or some flowers, or getting my hands in the earth, even if it's just a little window box, maybe if you don't have a garden or access to nature. So where did my hands do care? And then let's not forget, maybe somewhere in the day, hands did something that was a bit harmful. Yeah, maybe it was an email that just went a bit too quick without some mindful consideration, or maybe it was something else that I did with my hands that maybe wasn't skillful, that I would like to reflect on and think about, okay, I made contact there with the world in a way that wasn't mindful, that didn't have care and attention underpinning it. And, without judging, but how can I maybe work differently with that moving forwards? Janine there is saying she's working with neurological and stroke patients, and this would be great. Yeah, a great practice to help them, use the mind to perhaps retrain some of those brain networks. I just give a few other examples, just if you want to explore. So one of the other examples is I've worked quite a bit with people that have experienced dissociation or depersonalization. And the challenge, of course, is how to be present with not being present. A bit of a philosophical conundrum there. And one young lady that I was working with, a teenager who was struggling at school, what we actually made was almost like a postcard sized sensory mat. So she had a piece of card, and she picked a lot of different textures, little swatches of material. I think one was kind of a bunch of rubber bands, one was a piece of velvet, one was a bit of kind of tin foil. She picked all sorts of different textures and made like a sensory mat that she could take with her into school. And she just had that on her lap underneath the desk. And then moments when she felt she was kind of drifting away, or where she was sort of losing herself, she was able to just take her hand down to the mat. And then there was just variety in the sensation that she could use to feed her brain and just help her to kind of stay in the classroom and stay there and be present. Claire's there, and we're hearing some great things there from those working with mindfulness. So developing a mindfulness project with Irish travelers, they're going to love this. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Lots of contact with nature there, and lots of different materials maybe that you could work with. Anything else that anybody wants to share? Ah, Sally Bishop there. Yeah, people with dementia benefiting from twiddle muffs. Not exactly sure what that is, but I'm thinking of those twiddle things that the young people have. Yeah, and it's so sensory through our hands and our fingertips. Can be really rich sensations there. So I'll maybe share one more example, because I'm aware we're coming up to the end. Another place where I've been using this is working with an artist who's been she had a position at one time. She was artist in residence for the European Space Agency, and we've been working together on trying to bring creative mindfulness-based practices into the space environment as a way to increase team cohesion, to support those that are quite left brain, quite science-based, to be more expressive and creative in their work, and also to meet some of the challenges of people living together in really tiny environments that are high stress. And her name is Eva van Lindenthal, and we've been developing this hands practice whereby they were analog astronauts. They were doing a mission that wasn't in space, but in a kind of pretend space module environment where they go and train. And it was really wonderful because they were invited to do a hand practice and reflect on their day with that question of, what have my hands been doing? The experiments and the tasks and things that they needed to do in their space mission. Where did my hands help me to take care of myself or others? And where did I meet challenges in the day? And then they would come together as part of their daily reflective process in the space module in order to share their drawings. And it was really amazing and interesting piece of work, because lots of these people, very, very left-brained, highly trained scientists, PhDs, double PhDs, people that are really used to doing a lot of doing. And, slowly as the mission went on, they got more and more creative with their drawings. And the other thing that happened was they started off with the drawings very much about their own experience. But as the mission continued, they started weaving each other's experiences into their drawings. It was just really an incredible evolution that had this function of bringing a creative mindfulness practice to teams working in these high performance environments, but then really giving them the opportunity to play and connect in a different way. Yeah, Janine's there saying, any tips with patients with reduced sensation? I mean, I think there's two ways to go with that, isn't there? There's one which is maintain the attentional training, with practice, with repetition. We know that the attentional training will amplify sensation, but it may be that some sort of external prompt, like some of the things that are mentioned there, the muffs or different kinds of sensory information, may also be an external prompt that might be able to help there. And I'm just going to show one drawing, which was a colleague of mine. She actually did a really nice piece of work where she did this practice with her hand in the hedge. We've been doing hand, we've been doing body. She's actually an artist as well, so these are sort of like next level pictures. But here she was trying to capture just having her hand in a hedge, and the kind of the coolness of the shadow and the sensations of the leaves touching and the branches. I think she also did one with her hand in some water, and she was just exploring really kind of quite abstract ways of kind of sharing experience of the hands. This is somebody with a lot of meditation experience and also some of the technical skills to kind of really express in a different way. But they're absolutely beautiful and stunning. And this is who we are, right? This is who we are when we go to the body. So I think we take a pause there. And thank you, everybody, for your attention, your willingness, your openness. I hope you had a playful time exploring mindfulness of the hands. And yeah, I think I'll hand over back to the OMC team now, if Claire is there.
I'm here. Thank you so much, Tamara. I've never enjoyed drawing around my hand quite so much as I did just then. There is one more question I'd love to pose to you. It came directly to me through chat, which is around, I don't know if you'll be able to answer this even, but do you know anything about research and synesthesia? I can never pronounce it properly. So for example, people's experience or, sensory experience that maybe isn't what we'd normally associate with a particular part of the body. Or so in this case, this person hears colors, and then sometimes in very calm moments notice how the colors all fade into white and then disappear into nothingness.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know myself so much about it. I mean, when I did my PhD, I was in Jeffrey Gray's department at the Institute of Psychiatry, and he was very much interested in, I think they sort of call it the crossed wires. That's a bit of a simplistic explanation, I think, but the sort of lay explanation is somehow the sensory wires are crossed. But I think I would just come back to this really core mindfulness position, which is, what is your experience? And it's true that even in the kind of so-called range of normal experience, there's so much breadth. There's so much breadth. And then beyond that, we also know that these minds and brains are formed and shaped in such incredible ways. And I'm really keen that we don't kind of pathologize that, because I think just the breadth of what it is to have a human brain and mind is so incredible. Our task now as we mature in our understanding of mind and brain is to really honor and recognize that there are very, very different ways of experiencing the world. And I think it's fascinating if people that really see the world differently are given some space, some language, some permission, and can we meet them just with curiosity and wonder, and see what we can do to help them be in the world in a way that feels comfortable and kind, and lets them experience things as they do. And I think we're coming to that with some of this, this work on neurodiversity or cognitive diversity. I think we're really expanding our conscious awareness of just how different everybody is. Yeah, just how different everybody is. And sort of a sense maybe that our world has been built just for a very narrow range of functioning. And if we want to move forward from some of the learning and insights that I think we've got during COVID, what seems to be critical is let's widen that. Let's widen the breadth of our understanding of what it is to be in the world, because these minds do see things differently, and we need different. We need different more than ever now. So I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah.
Beautiful. And yeah, just that sense of spaciousness and opening and welcoming is just very much what you've given us. And I don't know if you've seen in the chat, but there's some really lovely comments about how much people have enjoyed the session. So huge thanks to you, Tamara, for sharing that with us